Hi, I'm Rachel, and I'm excited to mic it up.
Welcome to Mic It Up with GoodBed.com's Jeff Cassidy.
So when that's the case, it becomes harder just psychologically to make a change.
And Mike Magnuson.
If you're doing those things, you can be competitive long term.
Just when you thought these number-crunching data lovers couldn't get any nerdier, they started a podcast.
And I know this is pretty controversial, but this is why we're having a podcast, right?
But if you want to be smart about how the mattress shopping journey is changing and what retailers and manufacturers should be doing about it, well then, man, have you ever found your people? Because right now, it's time to mic it up.
I never realized how close my camera is. I'm here, like closer I'm from.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm feeling good in both of you guys.
Viewers, please remember, I'm a mother of 2 kids under 3.
You look great.
You look amazing. Yeah.
Yeah. By the way, did you have a chance to listen to any of the other episodes?
I did.
Okay.
Yeah, you guys are actually pretty funny.
Unintentionally, but yet funny.
Yeah, right. Well, if like nerd humor is your jam, which it is.
Yeah.
Nerd humor is definitely it.
Once you accept that premise.
For us, that just qualifies as humor. Since
Right.
we're nerds.
That's
So
what,
that's
exactly.
Yeah.
I can relate.
Right, exactly.
You'll know.
All right, let's see. So, one thing we sometimes forget to do, or at least we've only done this 3 times, but we forgot to do one of the 3 times, is an introduction. So I want to make sure we don't forget to do that in this case. We have our guest here today. Wait, by the way, Rachel Stewart, do you go by, or do you go by your full 3 names?
I do Stewart. It's just easier to spell.
Okay, got it. All right, so our guest here today, Rachel Stewart, we're delighted to have her. She is coming up on 9 years at Gardner-White. Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay. So previously, I like to give a little bit of background on what people did before their current jobs. You were in the government, public policy. Is that fair to say? For
I did. Yeah,
a
I
number
did
of years.
tech for a while before. So solar energy was my jam.
Okay. Was that your jam throughout that time that you were working in like the Clinton Initiative and?
For the most part, clean energy, and then moved into solar. So
Yeah. Got it.
don't trust me on if you want like wind or energy efficiency. Solar is really what I know.
Very cool. And we should also mention for those people listening who are not near a Gardner-White store, Gardner-White, and correct me if I'm wrong about any of these things, Gardner-White is the largest furniture store in Michigan, furniture retailer in Michigan.
You got it?
12 stores focused around the Detroit metro area. It was founded over 100 years ago.
Yep.
Is that right? By someone named Gardner and someone named White. I'm going to go kind of a team effort, perhaps. Fill in any other details I'm missing there. It is a family business, correct?
Sure. Want me to do this for you?
Yes, I would like that.
Yes.
I keep inviting it, but you're enjoying watching me struggle through it with whatever I could remember. So I didn't want to deprive you of
In
that.
10 minutes. I appreciate that. Yeah, no, we're a family business, biggest retailer in Michigan. I'm 4th generation, so I don't know what's the line. We were supposed to be bankrupt 2 generations ago, but somehow still here. Yeah, and it's since 1912 in this area, and it's sort of interesting when you get into history because there's so many companies, so many locally based and operated companies. They're all founded in that general neighborhood, and I think that's really a reflection of what was happening in the auto industry in Detroit at the time.
Yeah. That's great. Well, I think it's awesome to have also, the family connection here, the family business connection here, because it's something so common in the furniture industry. So it's great to have that perspective. So one thing we like to do to start things off, if you don't mind, is a little bit of a lightning round. You good with that?
Okay.
Okay.
Depends on the lightning round.
It's just meant to be fun, break the ice. So
Cool.
All right, good. So we're going to start it off, and it's just quick questions. Yeah, have fun with it. No wrong answers. All right, number 1. You have 2 kids right now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which one's your favorite? I'm just kidding.
Not
All right, here we go. Sorry, I had to, just because we seemed so nervous that I was going to ask a tricky question, so I had to just. Favorite summer activity?
Ooh. Swimming.
All right. Best music decade of the past 100 years.
Oh. It's so much easier to answer this before you get into the history of them all. I'm going to go with the 80s.
All right.
It was glorious.
Yeah, it was pretty glorious. If for no other reason than the hair. Favorite holiday.
Right. Favorite jeans. Favorite holiday, Thanksgiving.
That's a very. I think everyone we've asked.
Yeah,
that
it's an
question
apropos
to
one.
has that. Yeah.
Yeah.
No one, by the way, no one has said Black Friday.
It's the only day we're closed. Oh, that's fun. That's good.
All right. Scale of 1 to 10. How good of a sleeper are you?
8.
Solid. Favorite pizza toppings.
Ooh, classic margarita.
Oh wow, simple. That is classic. What is a non-condiment that you always have in your refrigerator?
Ooh, not much.
That sounds like my fridge.
Yogurt.
Yesterday's Chinese food.
We're to barbecuing, so I don't have to clean it.
Yesterday, that's ambitious. Try like last week, Mike.
All right. Favorite toy as a kid?
Oh, honestly, I think those big blocks that you could build with.
Oh, okay, like the Duplo blocks.
The cardboard ones we all had.
Oh, the cardboard ones. So you can make a fort. You were making stuff that you could get into, boom, and then knock it over.
Yeah,
got it.
That was more in the demolition.
Got it. Yeah, build it up to knock it down. If you had a walk-up song like a Major League Baseball player, what would it be?
Oh, geez. The outfield something by the outfield.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. So like a baseball themed song. You'd be right on point.
Yeah.
I like it.
Now I'm going to go back and Google
Center field
songs after this.
Center field is
there's some good writing music in there.
Yeah. Okay, sticking with sports, since it's the Olympic year here, in what non-sport activity would you be most likely to win an Olympic medal?
Non-sport?
Non-sport.
Sales, BS.
No. Sales help.
And the gold medal for BS goes to Rachel Stewart. Oh, say can. All right. What's something that made you smile recently?
My 2-year-old looks at me. She goes, "No, Mom, that's not for me."
Got it.
That's impressive. Is that something you or
I don't know.
somebody said?
In response to what? In response to what kind of a
she
thing?
uses it all the time.
Just in general, like.
Rachel is trying to sell her furniture.
I know, right?
Yeah, is that her response to your sales BS?
Everything. No.
Got it.
Let's get up and get moving. No, not for me.
That's funny though. Isn't it supposed to be the terrible twos? Yours are the polite twos.
Yeah, no, she's very polite but insistent.
Yeah, that's good.
Polite, but still resistant to what's being asked of her.
But at least in a pleasant way. It's kind of nice.
Right. Yeah, it's hardly terrible. It's
followed by "I love you, Mom."
The hard part is not laughing at her. So.
I love you, but I'm not doing that. All right. Let's start with a little bit of just continuing a little bit on your background. I think it's interesting because there's a lot of people in family businesses and multi-generational businesses in this industry. You essentially grew up in this business. Can you share any of your earliest memories of the business?
Oh, sure. Well, so I think, so every dinner, both my parents worked in the business, which I think is pretty unique. So, most, or at least some people would come home and at least get something of a respite, not us. So I think I remember distinctly every dinner conversation was about a marketing campaign, and usually you'd be debating it. So
From your youngest age, you remember this?
100%.
Wow.
Absolutely. No, I remember looking at print ads at the dining room table. Absolutely. So I remember, I think someone, back in the day before everything was digital, you had to drop off the ads to review them. And I remember an outside advertising agent did that to my parents. And of course, my parents were good parents. We felt empowered to express an opinion. So I took it upon myself to express my opinion about these ads at like 9 to this guy who, has this great, is this great professional in this space. with a ton of credibility. So I do distinctly recall that because my parents walked me aside to say why maybe this wasn't appropriate.
Did you by chance use the words, "This ad is not for me"?
No, maybe.
Got it. And so
yeah,
now
right.
that's interesting. So how did your relationship with the business then evolve over time? Like from the time you were 9 and being told maybe your input is better to share with your parents, but not with outsiders. Like how did it evolve over time, like through high school, college, and beyond?
Well, I think I guess, I mean, so what you see at home, which is what your parents are debating, is very different from when you're there watching people do their thing.
Mm-hmm.
So you sort of moved from learning just from sort of the inside baseball stuff to actually seeing what we do and really getting a lot of respect for the different areas. And I think,
Did you have summer jobs like as a
my
kid?
main takeaway is retail's hard. There's a lot of moving parts.
Did you have summer jobs with the business as a kid?
I did. I remember starting really young, I'd be filing in the back. And then I remember my first real punishment. At some point, I took it upon myself to strip the wallpaper in my bedroom and paint. Though I, read some books, did a decent job, but it was an okay enough job that my punishment was painting the back offices at Gardner-White.
Ah.
I think that was my first real.
God, that's a very fitting punishment. Yeah, we're gonna put these painting instincts to good use.
Could have been a reward, actually, too.
I think I actually liked it. I mean, kind of cathartic.
Yeah. So now, was it? Was it always the plan that you were going to go work in government or public policy and then come back? No, not always the plan.
Not at all. No, I think my parents were really smart in that sense of strongly encouraged me to go do other things, have a career, find your path.
Mm-hmm.
And I think when I said I was interested in coming back, I think they were more in shock than anything else.
Talk about what led you to that decision.
Well, I think I was at the point where I was going to go into the private sector in clean tech. And then when you really get to it first, the day to day, and Mike, you're in the thick of it. The day to day might sound glamorous, but really isn't. and the probability of success is like that big. And I just didn't feel like I had the big business acumen at the time, and independent of anything you'd want to do, like who's better to teach you than your parents? So I thought, let's try this one on for size and see if it fits.
Nice. And when you got there, or since you've been there, was there anything that really surprised you, relative to maybe what you would have expected the experience would be like?
Yeah, I think retail has a lot of complexities, even in the best days, let alone, and when the world is changing, as it certainly has been in the past 2 years, but always really is. So I think there's, for retail to work, a lot needs to happen right.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the biggest thing that struck me.
Yeah.
We sell things. We can be great on a sales floor, but there's about 80 other things you also need to nail to really grow a business.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about, you mentioned that how much things have changed in the last couple of years. Obviously, part of that relates to the consumer and, what their experience has been and how they interface with your store and so forth. What can you share about what you how you see the consumer journey having changed over your time in the industry, but maybe in particular these last couple of years?
Well, so COVID in particular, I think we made some, in some sense, I think it's overblown, but I do think people they're home more, they're using their things more, they need more functionality. So I think we've seen more interest in really investing in really comfortable, durable product. So for bedding, that has a huge impact.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one. Also, I just think how consumers use the web is just constantly changing and will continue to. In the past, when I joined, I remember the debate of, do you put your website in your TV spots? Because why would you direct them to your website, not your store, if they're already interested in you? Like now that's just that seems like such an antiquated conversation. And it really wasn't that long ago.
It is crazy. Yeah, that was all in the last 9 years that we went from that debate to where we are now, where that does feel.
Right. With why would you, first you wouldn't, but there's 80 things that are remarkable about that conversation. So I really think that's the biggest. And I think I don't know that anyone's really figured out in brick and mortar how to really dance with digital, but I think there's definitely some clues as to how that evolves.
What do you think in terms of like the changes that were brought about by the pandemic? Which ones do you think are going to be sticky and actually are going to last? I mean, whether it regards to the demand levels or the way that people shop.
Well, I think this definitely spurred the digital transformation for all consumers, without a doubt. When you had, so many people over 65 now buying online and just realizing how easy it is. I don't think that's going to change. Things like the grocery store. I haven't been to the grocery store in a year and a half. It's delightful. I think that'll stick.
That explains the lack of things in your refrigerator, by the way.
Yeah.
It's amazing. What's amazing is I know how frequently I order groceries online and still there's nothing.
And what about business wise? So you just talked about the consumer and how they've changed and the internet adoption accelerating and shopping online accelerating. Were there any changes that you made to the business and how you tackled digital that were particularly successful and that you'll continue on with more than you thought?
I think like everyone, we pivoted hard into digital, and it worked. And I think it just, for all of us, created a renewed focus on it. And I think we're all really learning in our own different ways to run it like we do our sales floors, with the same focus and intensity and skilled team. So I think, and I don't see that going anywhere anytime soon.
What is that? Can you elaborate on what that means, like to run it like your sales force?
I think in the past, especially in this industry, it was a passive process where it was more just, the team was more order takers. And we assumed that the furniture on the web would just sell itself. And I think, we certainly don't assume that on a sales floor. And I think now there's, a growing assumption that doesn't work on the web either. You need a skilled team to help answer questions, in many different ways, via chat, via on the phone, FaceTime, you name it.
Got it. So really adding a lot of more interactive elements to your web experience.
Yep. With real product experts.
With real people who can really help. Got it. That makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
And by the way, I'm curious too, because you're the first, at least on the podcast, the first full line furniture retailer that we've talked to. I'm wondering, did the pandemic affect anything as it relates to, all the cross-selling that happens within the store, like attachment of mattresses to furniture shopping or vice versa? Did the pandemic affect any of those trends?
Not for us, but I think we've always taken vetting really seriously and always bring it up in every conversation. So I think, our attachment rate was always probably pretty high as a result. Mm-hmm. We believe in vetting. We talk up good sleep all the time.
Was that the case before you came back into the business 9 years ago? That was already the case? Or?
Yeah, that's part of our DNA.
Let's talk a little bit about, you've had a pretty tumultuous year, the furniture retail marketplace mm-hmm. in Michigan. For those people who aren't aware, obviously, so your longtime competitor, Art Van, pretty much shocked the industry when they announced in March 2020, before the pandemic, that they were liquidating, not just going bankrupt, but liquidating. And then the retailer that stepped in and replaced them, at least in some of their stores, also has already since come and gone. And I'm sure, by the way, that you would not want to speak ill of competitors or whatever. So I'm not asking you anything about that. But what can you share about just the experience of having gone through this? I can imagine, obviously, that it opens up opportunities for sure. But at the same time, it had to have been a tough thing to be trying to maintain a stable ship while essentially there's a large competitor in the marketplace going from like liquidation to startup to liquidation. That adds a lot of, just uncertainty and, kind of chaos, I would think,
Sure.
to the market. What's it been like to go through that?
Well, I think, so first there was, you could do 20 podcasts just on this topic. Our band was hugely formidable. We have a lot of respect for them and learned a lot from watching that experience. So there's a ton there. In this market in particular, you really felt bad for the members of the team who were caught flat-footed going into a pandemic. Mm-hmm. We were lucky we could absorb many of them. But I think that, just as an industry, that's just hard to watch when, it's a small industry, so the people.
Yeah.
And then for consumers, it was hard because, it just creates uncertainty when there's consumers who put very sizable deposits and aren't getting those back.
Yeah.
So it just, I think it's just that we talk up our history anyway, but it certainly doesn't hurt to have the conversation that we've been here since 1912, family owned and operated. We are real people in this community who are going nowhere, to just create consumer confidence.
Because consumers at this point, even if whether they were directly affected by this or just heard about people being affected by this, they must have a sense of like feeling kind of gun shy, perhaps, about making big ticket purchases, having watched two major retailers go through this over the past year. And you've had, I imagine.
Yeah, sure. And and one in particular with a long-term, had, a lot of respect in the community with a long-term legacy. So absolutely.
Yeah. So you're I think that's great. You're in a fortunate position to be able to have this long history to give people comfort in a time like that.
Well, and I think that's where it helps. Part of the history there. Part of the lesson there is, I think, being locally owned and operated does make a difference when you live in the place where you work. So I think that's part of the story and the lesson, that it's a model that works, at least for furniture retail.
Yeah. For better or worse, I think that the retail industry is likely to see more of this across other markets. What do you think? Is there any advice you'd have for anyone in terms of how best to prepare for this type of situation?
Honestly, I don't think there's any preparation. I think you do the same thing that you would do every day anyway, which is build a strong, sustainable company.
Yeah.
And I think forget everything that happened in this market, but just COVID taught us all to be nimble and to be able to flex.
Yeah.
And you bought one of the former Art Van stores, right? Wasn't that Rochester Hills?
Yep. We got Rochester Hills. We're now opening the old Canton store within a few weeks.
And have you found, Rochester Hills has been, like half a year so far or something like that?
Almost. Yep.
Have you seen that there was a customer base kind of that came with that store, or was it just the same as if you put a brand new store that you built yourself in that location?
Well, it was a new location for Art Van as well.
Okay.
They had just opened that in 2019 or something, right?
Yep. It was their latest. It was their latest store, so which was great from our perspective.
Yeah.
Because it was.
Yeah.
Very easy store to open.
Yeah, that's great.
Going back to the demand that you've seen, like you mentioned, people investing in their homes and so forth. I'm always curious to get people's perspective on, how long do you expect that to last? Like, what are you guys planning for in that regard?
I think through 2021 the economy is going to be really strong, and we're going to see probably more demand than we have supply, based on everything happening in the world. I think 2022 will start off really strong, and then we'll see. But I do think people, just in general, I do think one result of the pandemic is just people think about their homes in a new way that they just didn't before. So I don't think we're going to go back. I think COVID demand will stay higher than it was.
Got it. You think we'll equalize in a steady state that's kind of higher than it was before, just in terms of people valuing the comfort of their homes?
I think so. And I also don't think, tell me what you guys think, but I don't see everyone going back to work 5 days a week in an office. So that just means people are going to be home more.
Yeah, I think that's for sure what we see. The Bay Area is maybe even an extreme example of that, where I think the companies have been super lenient about return to work policies. So I think that's for sure, we expect to see that here. But I do wrestle, though, particularly with the mattress category. I wrestle with, to what degree was this, as you said, just people basically increasing their share of wallet to the home? And to what degree was it people pulling forward purchases that maybe just otherwise would have happened next year, right? Or to what degree was it perhaps maybe just new households being formed at a higher rate than we've seen in the past? We do know that millennials are kind of, going out and forming new households. They're a big generation. So maybe there's all three of those, but I guess I wrestle to a degree with what's the mix there, because obviously the extent to which it's been pulled forward would affect future years, right? It's like the opposite of pent up demand. And the extent to which it's just increased share of wallet, to your point earlier about people's putting a higher importance on this, that would bode more like this is a more long-term lasting change. So I wonder, particularly with mattresses, to what degree the mix, how that mix shakes out. And I'm not sure that there is any hard data on that.
Yeah, I could hypothesize, but that you're getting what you pay for.
Yeah, and I think you're right that it's different for mattresses than for furniture, right? Because furniture, you have the spending more time at home, working at home, that opens up a new category of furniture that I need to buy. I need a desk to work at. I need a comfortable chair to sit in. But mattresses, the fact that I work from home doesn't make me need two mattresses. So I think that kind of long-term effect could be very different for mattresses as for furniture.
Yeah.
I agree with that.
Just on the distribution side, I'm curious to know, you guys have done some innovative things, like you had the Best Buy partnership. Is that still going?
That's not. That's right when I joined, actually. So it was a while ago. We were the national pilot within two Best Buys. We had 8,000 and 10,000 square feet in two different stores to sell furniture, which was hugely successful. And now they're doing.
They're now doing. They
do it themselves.
Took that over, and they're now selling furniture themselves.
Yeah.
Oh, I did not know that. But I thought it was also went the other way, that you guys were selling electronics through, like Best Buy maybe even had staff in your stores or something.
Well, yeah. How we started the relationship was we were selling. So the story goes that the world collapsed in 2008, 2009. And of course, our big concern is just being in the yellow pages the following year. And we leaned in hard to what the industry later did with big picture packages. Buy these 5 pieces of furniture, get a flat screen along with, and Best Buy was our supplier. So we were, I think, at a time, I think it was the third largest B2B account that Best Buy had. I mean, we cranked through those TVs and promoted them really heavily.
Yeah.
So as a result, we had this great relationship with Best Buy. So as they were looking for a national pilot to test furniture, we were sort of an obvious partner in that regard.
Yeah. Do you see, did you learn anything from that experience that would lead to maybe other innovative, out-of-the-box type partnerships? Or did you learn that maybe those things generally are not going to work? Or like anything you could share about that experience that would be useful?
Sure. Well, so first, when it comes to bedding, you learned that it was hugely successful in bedding because, we all know this, it just increased the buying cycle. So, lots of people aren't sleeping comfortably, but it takes a deliberate choice to go into a furniture store or bedding shop. So it was really effective there.
So meaning having a mattress in a Best Buy where people are likely to go more frequently just got people to think about mattresses sooner than they would have otherwise.
Yep.
Wow.
Oh, I thought you were going to say the other way, which was they were on the fence about when to go get a mattress, and the fact that they could get a free TV made them come into the store sooner.
No, the issue with Best Buy is they had these big stores, and they used to have rows of CDs and the huge TVs that then became flat screens. So they just had extra real estate. So this was a test that they did. You found that people were sleeping poorly, and you could get them on a mattress without them consciously being in the market.
Got it.
So that works well.
That's a huge takeaway, by the way. That like just getting people to really focus on their mattress before they otherwise would have ultimately gets them to, that's a theory that's been postulated many times, but you guys had hardcore data to really show that works. That's a huge thing.
And Tim, Mike, to answer your broader question, no, I think we as a company are always been pretty innovative and are always open to trying new things with different partners. Some work, some don't. But absolutely, we learned a lot from that partnership. So one of the things you learned is that learning is good, and that like partnerships that are with
innovative partnerships are a good way to do that. That's a good takeaway too.
Absolutely.
Let's talk. We've been talking a little bit about that being an innovative way to acquire customers. Customer acquisition is obviously just a huge part of the business. You, as you learned as a youngster at your dining room table. I mean, tell us about your approach to advertising, really, and maybe also how did it change during the pandemic?
So we are very heavy promoters. Always have been, always will be. That is who we are. In Detroit, TV is hugely important. It's just that is the vehicle of choice. There's obviously digital is important, print was important. Now it's different, but that is part of our DNA. So we are out there 365 in a very heavy and intense way, and I think it's important. You need to. People aren't thinking about a furniture purchase until they are, and you need to be
top of mind,
front of mind. So that's what we think. During the pandemic, with everything happening in the supply chain, you talk to some people who were pulling back their advertising budget because they didn't have the product to supply. That is just not something we would consider.
So your strategy during the pandemic was basically just keep the foot on the gas, the same exact kind of, no more, no less.
We spoke about different things. We offer same day delivery. That's always part of our message. We offer pretty aggressive financing. That's always part of our message. We believe in sort of diverse messages with frequency to hit customers' hot buttons.
Mm-hmm. Did you find the media mix change at all during the pandemic, or was it just pretty much the same television centric with a digital support structure kind of thing?
It was definitely what people were watching was different, and when they were watching it was different. There's no question about that.
Okay, so it changed within the medium. It changed as to where people were focused. Yeah.
OTT became more important because people had time to binge watch everything.
Right. We also noticed that last year you became the head of the primary sponsor of the Detroit Thanksgiving parade. Is that right?
Oh, that's a fun one.
Yeah. So did that parade end up happening last year, or did it get postponed? Or
it was like a TV production. We had one. It wasn't live, but they did. Given what was happening in the world, they really did a tremendous job. And it's a huge parade, and it gets a huge crowd each year. So that they didn't want those kind of crowds in downtown Detroit was sensible, and the parade company pivoted, and they did it beautifully. But we are looking forward to a real parade this year.
Yeah, awesome.
That's great.
And what's that going to entail?
Coming?
Yeah, what are you going to have a float?
Well, I don't know. We've never done it.
Yeah.
Yeah, how you must already be working on the float, right?
We have a float, so we did the same float for 3 years.
Okay,
so
the one that you did for last year will be the same one for this year.
It's huge. I can't wait for people to see it, and I can't wait for people from the Gardner-White team to dance on it and go down.
Oh, so you didn't have a float in it before either. Obviously, you weren't the sponsor before, but you didn't have a float in it until last year.
They taped the float last year, but it didn't.
Right, I got it.
It was a TV set.
That's exciting.
So,
are you going to be standing on something, waving like?
100%.
Crown?
Awesome.
Crown or no crown?
Oh, there's not a chance.
And does your? I think if you have the crown, I think your 2-year-old might say that is.
Oh no. But in addition, Thanksgiving's so fun because it's Thanksgiving, but it's also, if you're a retailer, one of the few days you're actually closed.
So we're starting to get a much better picture of why Thanksgiving's your favorite holiday. You're going to be on a parade float, waving at people, and the store's closed. This is all making sense.
Throwing out Black Friday flyers as off the top. Yeah.
No. We'll just have the TVs going.
That is cool. That seemed like it was a very big deal. To your point earlier, being involved in the community, that seemed like it was something that the community was very grateful for. You guys stepping up, especially in a tough year.
This is a big one. It's a really big one for Detroit. It's a huge parade. It's sort of, and I think also in this world, it's just sort of a sense of normalcy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know?
For sure. This is going to be a big deal it'll be a big marker of a return to normalcy to have that parade back in full effect this year.
Right.
That's awesome.
Looking forward.
I know where I'm going for Thanksgiving next year. Detroit.
There you go. Come on. Not far from Boston, Jeff.
Switching gears, I want to talk a little bit about product mix before we go run out of time here. So you guys, and particularly interested in mattresses. So you guys have a pretty broad assortment of products. You've got, for other people's benefit, you've got Heirloom at the moment, Heirloom Beauty Rest Black, iComfort Purple, Renova Sleep, which I believe is a house brand. Is that a Gardner-White brand?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Sealy, Serta Stearns,
Tempur-Pedic.
and Tempur-Pedic. Yeah, I did them in alphabetical order, not in order of your favorites.
Yeah, I got it.
So obviously, one interesting outlier in that list, sort of, would be Purple, since most people still think of them first and foremost as a D2C brand. I also know at one point, or if I remember correctly, at one point you'd had Brooklyn bedding on your floor, so you have some experience with different D2C brands. I'm curious, based on your experience with these brands, what's been your experience with having D2C brands, I guess, first and foremost? And then do you see yourself increasing your floor allocation to D2C brands in the future? Or how do you see that playing out?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think we added Purple because I think why consumers like it and why it's successful is it's something different. Mm-hmm. The grid was just not the same as everything else, which is why we added it. It was a real, they have a great marketing engine behind them, and I think they're really smart in how they use social media. But it was if you look at the product mix, it was just an ad, and I think that's how we evaluate it. Mm-hmm. Is do you want to stand behind this product and sell it to consumers? And in that case, the answer was definitely yes. So I think that's how we'll keep looking at it, and I think hats off to them because again, I think we're going to have to keep innovating. So there's a story to tell behind these big white boxes, and that's the game. I also think there's a lot of more innovation happening in the motion bases, and I think that really needs to continue to keep this category interesting.
What are you seeing consumers asking for?
Well, so a few things. I was thinking before, while driving in, I was thinking about where the opportunities lie, and I think first you lie on a motion base. They make a mattress a lot more comfortable. So I think there's a great story there to tell. We see people selling a lot of them. There's a lot of sleep apps. In my opinion, they're all pretty similar. Mm-hmm. They just sort of tell you how much you slept without any actual information on the health of your sleep, which actually scientists know a ton about. Mm-hmm. So I think, over time, that's where the opportunity is not just, 6 hours, 23 minutes, but tell me about the quality of your sleep. And then I think the other benefit of sort of smart bases is you can create a world where sleep isn't just reactive. I wake up, I'm not comfortable, I move this. It sort of supports you through the full sleep cycle to help create a better night's sleep. Mm-hmm. So to me, and you can sort of see in some of the technology that, little seedlings of this, but to me, that's sort of where the ball's going.
Basically an interactive system that's monitoring you and preemptively adjusting before you wake up.
Yep.
Makes sense.
Got it. Well, yeah, that's a hugely promising prospect. Although, is there anything close to that really? I know we have the anti-snoring that reacts at the moment.
I think that's the first step.
Yeah. Okay.
But it seems to me, there's a ton of science here. We just need to link it with technology, which, every sector does. And the question is how well and how fast. Yeah. And at what cost. But I don't think there's anyone out there who doesn't want me.
What do you see? What do you hear from consumers in terms of their appetite for that? This definitely feels to me like the kind of thing that falls into that. What was it? I guess it was Henry Ford who said, if I asked consumers what they want, they would have said faster horses. Or was that Henry Ford? I think it was Henry Ford who said that. Because I don't think people are coming into your store, I guess, asking like, hey, do you have a bed that's going to respond to my movements and adjust accordingly to help me sleep better? But I guess when you tell that story to people, they're pretty receptive, or you think they would be. How do you?
Yeah, I think there's not a person out there. Yeah, I don't think there's anyone out there that doesn't want to sleep better. I think it's, our job as an industry to work with key vendors to tell that story well, and what the benefits are. I think we sort of if you look at most ads now, you sort of you say the word sleep, you don't say that much about it, but I think there's a lot more there. I mean, to me, if you're marketing to women, talk about all the benefits of sleep, including anti-aging. Like, there's a lot of documented evidence there,
right?
And a lot of
lead with anti-aging. Yeah.
There's a lot of industries built up.
Yeah, exactly. I think that pitch works with men too, by the way.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm confident. 100%.
I agree with you though that the key to these sleep trackers is like they've got to result in something actionable, and the actionable thing could be something that happens passively to you, like just enhances your sleep experience without you having to do anything, or it could be but where the action is being taken that on your behalf, in other words, as opposed to by you. Right. But at a minimum, they need to at least give me something that I can do actionable, because right now it's just this data, like you said, that has really no insight attached to it. There's no causality. There's nothing I can extract from it that I didn't already know or couldn't already hypothesize on my own. Like, oh yeah, like I slept badly because it was noisy, or I slept badly because I had 6 cups of coffee in the afternoon.
Right. Or but every morning, I wake up every day at 3 and then, turn this direction, or I move my knees out. Like, there's things you can infer. And there's a clear next level for the technology.
Yeah. If they can start to pull those insights out of the data to let me know about them, that would make them more actionable for me. And maybe better yet, to your point, if they can just build those insights into the product so the product knows what to do with them, then that would be even better. And that probably brings it.
It's the equivalent of it's a little creepy, I think, but helpful, is when Google Maps, you get in your car and it tells you, best route home.
Yeah.
Or best route. I mean,
that's true. Like, that's a great analogy, actually, because when there was navigation, people, once the actions just kind of got done for you, like where you didn't even have to think about it, that's when really that type of stuff really took off. It was just like, okay, it's just literally telling me turn right, turn left, whatever. Then people really adopted that. I'm going back to the whole brand mix thing. I mean, I guess I want to talk a little bit more about private label brands, because you don't have a lot of private label brands, and that's an area where a lot of people we talk to are like, oh yeah, as we move into this world where more and more manufacturers are feeling, a lot of cases out of necessity maybe, that they need to sell direct, to have a direct relationship with customers, whether to get reviews or just to help their product innovation cycles. And they're seeing the success that D2C guys are having by virtue of the direct relationships they've got with consumers, even in their in-store sales. They're benefiting from those relationships. So in that world where there's a lot of brands that are going direct, a lot of people think that the answer, or one of the answers, is more private label. Like having a really big mix of a lot of private label. What's your view of private label? What's your view of the future, and how do you think it fits in?
I think it really does. So we have a huge bedding aisle, and I think our view is there's no one in Metro Detroit who could not come in and find a comfortable mattress within their budget. I think to the extent there are gaps in that mix that we see, we would and believe in private label, would and will believe in private labeling. But I think people come to us because our sales team is truly excellent when it comes to product knowledge and bedding. And I think our job is to find the best product for that person, period. And to get them in at the right time, as opposed to them wanting to come back to return it. And we focus a ton of time, energy, and money on training to that. If there's a hole where you couldn't satisfy a customer, then we should private label.
Right. That makes sense.
But I think there's some, our brand partners do a really good job with a lot of advertising dollars behind it, and a lot of R&D dollars behind it. So I think you really have to look at how to fill holes on your floor.
So if you
as
had to
opposed to private
crystallize,
labels.
if there's one thing that the private label brands could do to gain share, it would be basically just look for holes in where the big brands. Is that?
I think, yeah, I think look at what consumers are looking for and try to, I think our job is to try to satisfy them, in at the best price points.
Yeah.
So, if you think you can do it better, then I think private labeling makes sense.
I mean, the obvious
In
knock,
whatever,
the obvious knock on private label is that private label is not going to swing your door, right? So like that's the other side of the D2C brand. Basically, in theory, what you're getting with these D2C brands is that they've been pretty good at branding, and they should hopefully, maybe outpunch their weight class in terms of the amount of traffic they bring into your store. Have you seen that happening, or do you believe in that? And actually, I'm curious in particular to ask you this because as a full line furniture retailer, I know that on the one hand, you don't necessarily rely on mattress brands to swing your door because you're able to cross sell furniture buyers on mattresses. But on the other hand, every person who does come in your door, let's say to buy a mattress, is worth more to you because you can attach furniture items to their purchase too. So, I'm just curious how you view the trade-off between maybe a brand that can swing your door, but maybe doesn't offer quite as much margin as a private label brand, or maybe some of the other advantages that other brands could offer.
Yeah, I mean, we really haven't focused that much on private label, because we think we have a really pretty diverse and strong bedding mix.
Yeah.
For sure, there's brands that do, I think, a really competent job on marketing, that changes over time. And that's really important. We promote brands really heavily. There's, in some cases, hundreds of years of brand equity there, and that's important and really valuable. So we push that really hard.
Yeah, but even comparing D2C to traditional brands, even forget about private label for a moment. How does that shake out?
I think they all. I mean, I think you want a diverse. We have a diverse consumer base, and different brands speak to different people. So our job is to press the levers differently depending on which advertising medium and which consumer. Mm-hmm. But I think there's certainly a place for everyone, and they're all different with different strengths.
Yeah.
And then once you get in the door, I mean, we still do. We believe in a comfort sell.
Yeah.
So, which for us works.
Shifting gears again, one of the things I noticed right away when I got into this industry was it's not the most diverse industry. That's probably an understatement, but particularly that may be true on the mattress side too. I'm not sure if it's equally the case on the furniture side, but nonetheless, that certainly includes, but is not limited to, the presence of women, and particularly in high-ranking positions. I don't want to presume that just because you're a woman, this is a critical issue to you, but do you have a point of view on what can be done to change this, and how the industry might benefit from having more diversity, or how the industry might gain from doing that?
Well, so Mike, I'll start with the end. I think, we all know that the consumer is a she, so to me, the benefits are obvious. And I will say, this is often a conversation within the industry, and I will say I've had some fabulous male mentors. So I don't, I know mentorship is certainly part of it, but I've been really fortunate in that I've received great mentorship. That being said, I think, if you want the industry to change, you need more examples of leadership of people who look different across 20 different variables. So I think we got, like everything, it's the hard work of starting at the bottom and training people from the bottom, and then promoting those that are really qualified. But I think like everything, it needs to be a concerted focus. And, I came out of the technology industry, same issue. But, when they started really focusing on PhD programs and started really trying to attract women, then suddenly you end up with more tenured faculty. I mean, it's the same thing. It just takes time, energy, and focus.
Got it.
That's one. But I do think that benefits are obvious.
So, okay, I'll just shift another abrupt change here, but I also wanted to ask you, this podcast kind of provides an opportunity to speak to the industry, speak to other retailers. And one of the things that we think is unique about that is it's an opportunity perhaps for retailers to talk about things that they think could be improved and changed in the industry through perhaps cooperation amongst retailers and between retailers and brands. So to the extent that there's anything out there that you think there's a need for collective change, I think this is, I want to give you the opportunity to raise any issues you think that would be worth discussing.
So so I think in general, there's a lot more that we can all do through collaboration, that we're all fighting the same things. But one thing the thing we were talking about earlier, which I think is really important, is on when you get a product, a mattress back in particular, sort of what do you do with it? Both, I think there's a challenge from a business model perspective in terms of how to get fear from, which is what you guys are talking about, but then also just sort of the life cycle of a product. Do we create a good product for the foam? Is there technology that could help shred more efficiently? There's a lot there that I think would benefit all of us, and for everyone to be good hurts no one. So I think that's definitely one.
And by the way, just on that one, just Rachel's referencing episodes 7 and 8 of this podcast, that if you haven't heard them, we discuss return policies, and in particular how to limit the number of products that are returned as one way to address that issue. And then the second issue she was raising is one we haven't tackled on the podcast, which is this question of what more ecosystem can be built to do better things with the products that we ultimately can't avoid being returned.
Correct. Thank you.
Sorry, I just.
That's important. And then on warranties, I think what you were saying earlier is also right, that people use warranties as a proxy for durability and quality. And I think to coordinate somewhere in that regard would make sense, because I think, you'd rather give real data on a product as opposed to this, like ephemeral thing that keeps changing and then someone's out of whack. I just think no one's winning if they're all inconsistent and sort of confusing. I think that just means fewer customers shop for mattresses.
I agree. So better data on actual durability, and then shorter warranties. Like the warranties end up being this.
Right.
They just end up setting people up for disappointment because of the way they're written in the first place, and it should just be about having a better metric of durability.
Well, shorter and consistent, because I think you're also saying that the inconsistency breeds lack of trust and kind of insert some distrust in the entire process for the shopper, which I also think is true.
Yeah, precisely. And I think, at the point of sale, the last thing you want to be talking about is the warranty. Like, when this fails, what's going to happen? You want to tell them about the great product they just bought and how well they're going to sleep.
That's a really good point. It's like asking someone to marry you, popping the question with your prenuptial agreement, like right there.
Right. Exactly. Romance. So that's another one. And then I think just over time, I think as an industry, as in a world, it's a passion of mine. I think we need to think about sustainability and how we're impacting the world environment.
In what ways do you think?
We're certainly all in that together.
Yeah, for sure. In what ways do you think the industry could play a bigger role there?
I think we need to think about what materials we're using, what end of life looks like. There's just a whole host of questions that I just don't see us having a conversation about that's really important.
And do you think that there's how could that conversation be better facilitated across the industry, do you think?
I think that's the role of industry organizations. I think that's why you have conferences and bring on thought leaders. There's certainly many product categories where this is a conversation. Mm-hmm. And to the extent we learn from them, coordinate with them, et cetera, we'll create better products for it. I mean, I started, one of my first jobs was at the Clinton Foundation working on sustainability. And it turns out that people that were really interested and engaged in it at the beginning were certainly interested in sustainability, but also quickly found out that if you use less, it's cheaper, and you can deliver a more cheaper product to consumers.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I think, I could give you countless examples, and I think that's sort of the conversation we need to have as an industry as well.
Right. That makes sense. Once you sort of put the cost savings in there for the industry, it makes it a little easier to swallow, maybe.
Right. Yeah. One of my first projects was on plastic bags. Not sexy, but if you use enough, it becomes real important real fast.
Yeah. All right. Well, I know you're short on time. I'm going to ask you just one last question. Is there anything I didn't ask you that you think is important?
I don't think so. I'm sure.
Okay. I think that last question was a bit of a catch-all already, so I thought you probably had a chance to
that is
incorporate your any other thoughts you had. Well, with that, then I think we will wrap it up. And thank you so much for your time. It's been awesome chatting with you.
Rachel.
Super fun. And thank you all for listening. And please remember, if you like what you're hearing, subscribe to the podcast and leave us a review in the Apple Podcast store, the iTunes store. It helps other people discover the podcast. In the meantime, thanks so much for listening, and we're out.